Alright, let's get on with the review. So really what I want to do with this review is compare and contrast both films. We have the original theatrical release of Superman 2 that was released in 1980, and it was directed by Richard Lester. And then I'm also going to review the Superman 2 Richard Donner cut, which was made in 2006, or the actual film was recut in 2006. So we'll take that and we'll put it in a versus match, and we'll see which one is better. So let's start off with the beginning of the theatrical release of Superman 2. So we start off, there's a terrorist attack that's happening in Paris at the Eiffel Tower, and Lois is on her way to Paris. She's trying to get the big scoop, and then Clark hears about it. So then, he suits up as Superman, and then he flies his way to Paris. And by that point, the terrorists already have a hydrogen bomb, I believe, inside an elevator on top of the Eiffel Tower. And Lois is actually under the elevator that has the hydrogen bomb in there. And then eventually Superman swoops in, saves Lois, grabs the elevator that the bomb has now been detonated on, or the clock is ticking, and then Superman flies up, and then he throws it into outer space. But then when the hydrogen bomb explodes, Zod, General Zod from the first movie, is released from the Phantom Zone, which is the giant. It's almost like a window kind of floating through space that we saw Zod and the other three characters, his henchmen, if you can call them that, or partners, whatever you want. We saw them being put in the Phantom Zone at the beginning of the first film. So now we see that once that explodes, the hydrogen bomb explodes, it releases them, and then basically the rest of the movie is just Zod trying to find Superman and kill him, and basically get his revenge. And a whole bunch of different interesting plot points happen. Lois slowly begins to figure out that Superman is Clark Kent, and Clark Kent's always trying to dodge the fact or trying to mislead Lois. And some of the ways that she tries to prove it are actually pretty funny. I really enjoyed that, especially in the Richard Donner cut, but we'll get back to that later. And basically the whole movie, one of the biggest themes that they have is the theme that Superman can really never be with Lois Lane, because literally right after he gives up his powers, just this storm of just bad stuff happens to him. I mean, he gets beaten up. Zod and his trio take over the White House. So this really illustrates that he can't be a normal person. He always needs to be Superman, and he can never be in love with another person, because he always needs to be Superman, because the world is just this crazy, messed up. It's always going to be in danger, and Superman needs to be there to help him. And besides the actual plot point itself, the rest of the movie is great. The actors are all back. It's Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. We have Christopher Reeves as a perfect Clark Kent and a perfect Superman. And everyone, the whole cast is having a good time. The writing's nice. It's very charming film. It's fun. It's not too. It's very lighthearted. It's not too rough. But this movie actually has small problems that really, when you look at it, you're kind of confused, and you really tend to think it over, and then nothing makes sense, and then just like, wait, what? I don't even understand, or some of Superman's powers are just undefined. For example, the final scene, you'll really understand what I'm talking about. I'll illustrate it right now. Well, apparently some sort of telekinesis laser beam, sure, okay, and apparently a cellophane S that does absolutely nothing is just the most useless weapon ever. And just the random teleporting is just confusing as hell. See, his powers in this scene are just so undefined, and it's so strange to just watch. But that's just a really small detail. I didn't really care. But hey, that's the theatrical version. So we're going to move on to the Richard Donner cut, and we'll see if things have changed or if it's better or not. So some of the scenes that were added into the Richard Donner cut were as followed. It was a completely different opening. There's a different hot air balloon scene. The way Lex Luthor discovers the Fortress of Solitude. Lois, actually in the movie, she shoots Clark with a blank in order to figure out that Clark Kent is Superman. And some other scenes are instead of Zod and his trio defacing the Mount Rushmore, instead they actually just destroy the Washington Memorial, which I think is a little bit better. It's because in the original cut, it's just they shoot the faces of the founding fathers in the Mount Rushmore, and they just changes to their face, which really did not make any sense. But basically, what they do with the Washington Memorial or Monument is they just destroy it, they break it in half, and that's all. That makes more sense. And basically, I don't want to spoil all the changes from the Richard Donner cut, but I do think they are, in fact, better than the theatrical scenes, or at least the ones that he replaced were better than the theatrical ones, in my opinion. And the real main point I want to get across is that Richard Donner is a better director than Richard Lester, and some of the scenes that he uses, they make more sense, and they're not as cheesy as the theatrical version. So I would tend to say that I enjoyed the Richard Donner cut more than the theatrical version of Superman 2. So I'm going to give the theatrical version of Superman 2, that was released in 1980, a 6 out of 10. And I'm going to give the Richard Donner cut, that was made in 2006, a 7.5 out of 10. Alright, and that's it for my review of Superman 2, both theatrical and Richard Donner cut. If you want to see some of the previous or after reviews of the Superman franchise, please go and click any of those posters to see the reviews. Make sure to subscribe, and definitely check out all the other Superman movies, and especially the Man of Steel coming out. Really excited. And again, thank you for watching.